All right, welcome back, folks, to TradeBlocked, brought to you by Cub Fantasy. I am your host, Dustin. You can find me at FFDustyDog. We've got Hoov over this way at the
Heyo.
YouTube, my co-host, and bringing up the bottom, we've got my other co-host, Joel, at the Joel Wirth. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening? It's post-Expo. We got to hang out live and in person, which was a lot of fun. Uh, Boys, do you feel recovered for this? And would you say the Expo was a great success overall?
Great success.
Great success. Very nice. Very nice. Very great.
Yeah, it was a blast. Yeah, I'm like I was talking before the show. I don't even drink, and I still don't feel like I've recovered. But yeah, I'm still really tired. But yeah, great time. Great seeing you guys. It was awesome getting to meet you guys in person. So love that. Everybody I got to meet in person for the first time or see for the first time in a year. It was awesome. So yeah, just the fantasy football family reunion. Always a great time.
I didn't even know that
Yep.
Joel had purple hair. I didn't at all. So I showed up and we got a group squad pick, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely dyeing my hair next year because Joel came with the fashion sense this year. He came with the spray
Sure did.
paint on. He was ready.
Bringing it.
But yeah, it was a great weekend for you boy Hoop. That's why I wasn't here last week, is because a week ago tonight I was getting engaged, and so I've been engaged for a whole entire week now, and she hasn't decided against it. So we're on for a great course. But yeah,
Good
it's been a
start.
great weekend. It's been a great weekend, even though it's over. But that means that we're back to the routine. We're back to being here, and that means we can break down DeVonta Smith.
Yeah, which I think is going to be a really interesting episode here. I was telling Hoov before we got going that this is a player that I have a really hard time valuing. So I'm really interested to get your guys' opinions on this. But before we get into it, we got to talk about our sister site's new partnership with Trophy Smack. Head over to trophysmack.com/WOFF and start shopping for all your achievement-based wants and needs. Do you need a draft board for your league's offline draft? Want to get yourself a championship belt to bask in your reign as league champion? How about a decorative ring to remind your league mates who the real champion is? Trophy Smack has it all. So head over to trophysmack.com/WOFF and get your gear today. And a friendly reminder that any commissions we earn throughout the month of August from you lovely lot using our unique link will be added to the Women of Fantasy Football's WOFF/Galvanize Scholarship Fund, benefiting Laura Oakman's Galvanize, an organization that offers women the tools to succeed in sports media. You can find the links in the description that will take you directly to Trophy Smack and some of their products. Shop for the cause today. And Joel, show off that beautiful belt you have. Oh, look at that bad boy. Just glorious. It's the real deal, folks.
These things are legit. They are heavy. They are dense. I can't tell if it's not leather. I can't tell. I'm not like sophisticated, but it sure looks like leather to me.
I saw Linda
It's even
rocking.
legit.
I saw Linda rocking the Queen's Classic belt all Friday night, and I'm like, man, isn't that thing heavy? And she had her beer tucked into it. It was sturdy. Those things are great. So
They are awesome.
they're not as flimsy as my fake World Heavyweight Championship. They are nice and dense. So definitely worth the money.
That's right. So make sure you go check them out. So yeah, as Hoop said here a moment ago, we are talking DeVonta Smith this evening, and let's talk current value here before we get into the more of nuts and bolts of what you guys actually think of him and his kind of short-term, long-term analysis. So currently on Dynasty Nerds, he's the wide receiver 12. Going behind Puka and Tyreek and ahead of Odunze and London, a number 35 overall in Superflex and 19th overall in 1QB. Now, Hoov, do you think these are reasonable values for him?
There's every reason to believe that why he should be here where he is. I think we're going to really try to break down what his role is in this offense, in this Kellen Moore offense. You know how we are. You know how I feel about Wonder Boy, and what he brings to the table and what he's brought in Los Angeles and Dallas before that. So I kind of have a good feeling as to what the difference between AJ Brown and DeVonta Smith are going to be this season. But if anyone has the talent to prove me wrong, it's DeVonta Smith. So I kind of have to go in with expectations for what I think the offense is versus also I don't want to doubt DeVonta Smith's talent on top of it. So we're going to find a good balance between these rankings. Keep trade cut, wide receiver 14, Dynasty Nerds, wide receiver 19. So there's a good difference. There's going to be a few players that maybe a few people in our audience might favor a little bit more than DeVonta Smith, but DeVonta Smith might also be one of those players that if your guys just keep getting sniped from you and you're staring them in the face, maybe you want to take a shot on them. So I don't hate it, but I'm not like signing up on every single draft. I want DeVonta Smith.
Joel, do you have similar thoughts about DeVonta, or are you like just all in? Give me all the DeVonta Smith I can get.
I do like. I'm just kind of taken by the difference in the valuations. Like you said, Nerds has him at wide receiver 12. Hoov, you said Sleeper has him at 19.
14 versus 19.
Yeah, KTC has him at 17. So it's a pretty wide disparity here. I think I would have him closer to wide receiver 12. I think he should be like kind of right on the fringe of a wide receiver 1. I don't think he is a wide receiver 1, but I think he should be right around that area. I would definitely have him higher than 17 or 19. So I just think the difference in between the sites ranking is very, very interesting.
So I think that the best way we can really kind of break it down is just looking at these other players, seeing who we like, who we don't like over DeVonta Smith, because there's, like you said, there's a lot of truth to it. Like he probably could be more like a wide receiver 17, but with this offensive coordinator running things, it might be a drop in production that way. So let's take a look, shall we?
We shall.
Okay. So 5 wide receivers above DeVonta Smith's ranking on Dynasty Nerds. We got AJ Brown at wide receiver 14, Malik Neighbors at wide receiver 15, Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 16, our guy Jalen Waddle, Puka Nacua at wide receiver 17, and the always great Tyreek Hill at wide receiver 18. So you got his counterpart at wide receiver 14 starting us up 5 spots ahead of him, and I'm notoriously on AJ Brown's hype train. So wide receiver 14 almost feels too low for what I think AJ Brown might be. So obviously I can't take DeVonta Smith over him. Even in Dynasty, maybe the only person that you could talk me into is Tyreek Hill. But even if you're staring Tyreek Hill in the face and you're thinking, should I get Tyreek or should I get DeVonta? You should always get Tyreek Hill and just decide to compete and then go all in for the next 3 years. That's what I would always advocate for. Like, there's a good enough difference in production between DeVonta Smith and Tyreek Hill to still pass on him for Tyreek. Joel?
I think that AJ Brown ranking is pretty egregious. Wide receiver 14. I would put him at wide receiver 7, 8, something like that. I can't imagine he's any lower than that. I mean, that's being generous with the new guys like Harrison and Neighbors and saying, I can't imagine there's 13 guys ahead of AJ Brown I would rather have. So and you're right. You definitely have to take AJ Brown ahead of DeVonta Smith. And I think Tyreek's a really interesting comp in that area because it's kind of team specific, whether you would rather have Tyreek or DeVonta, but I think it's a pretty narrow team that you would straight up prefer DeVonta to Tyreek because the likelihood of elite this season production is so high with Tyreek. I can't imagine you would, if you're a contender, there's no way you would trade Tyreek straight up for DeVonta. So yeah, these rankings just seem very strange. Like maybe I'm just higher on DeVonta Smith than the market is, but I didn't think I was, but these rankings are very strange to me.
Yeah. Dustin?
I would say based on the 5 guys that are listed here going above them, it seems like that's fair value. I mean, I don't know that I could push any of those guys below him. So I guess it's fair value. It's just really surprising to see him that low. And I don't know if that either speaks to just the depth of wide receivers right now that we have in the league and this just young influx of talent that we've had over the last like 3 or 4 years, or if it has something to do with questions on the offense, because we've seen, AJ Brown be the guy, as you said, who new offensive coordinator coming in, they bring in Saquon Barkley. I mean, there's been a bunch of changes, and let's be honest, and this is where it has been really difficult for me to rank him and value him, is in this offense he's been pretty inconsistent. I mean, by the end of the season, yes, year-end stats always look pretty good, but on a game-by-game basis, it's sometimes hard to know when exactly we should be starting him. But like I said, I think just with the receivers that are going right above him right now, I can't put him above any of those. So I guess it's fair value.
I mean, even like you're talking about the addition of Saquon Barkley, I think the Eagles might be better than people think. They're definitely gonna be back after their second half of the season slump last year. I mean, with Vic Fangio being there from Miami, that's a very underrated signing from Philly, and they're going to be turning the ball over quite a ton with Vic Fangio being there and utilizing all those defensive weapons that they have. So there's a reason to think that the Eagles offense is going to be on the field quite a lot, making points, making plays. So if anyone's going to have the talent to outproduce someone like, he's not going to outproduce AJ Brown, but if you look at someone like Kellen Moore's used in the past as like a wide receiver too, Mike Williams, love Mike Williams. I've always advocated for Mike Williams. I wish that he could always just stay healthy. That's like has been his biggest thing. But the size and the talent that he has, like when he's on the field, like you can always kind of bank on him making plays. And I kind of feel like the same way for DeVonta Smith. Even though he doesn't have the size of Mike Williams, he definitely has the talent to overcompensate that as a Heisman Trophy winner. So I think that I don't think any of us are going to like look at these guys that are ranked above him and say, oh yeah, I would definitely take DeVonta over. Maybe we should probably look at the guys that are under him and see maybe, is he a little high? Maybe he actually should be a little lower. Joel might have all five, that he might not take over him, but there's a few on here that I'm actually kind of curious about. So let's pull them up. 5 wide receivers underneath DeVonta. On Dynasty Nerds, we got Rome Odunze at wide receiver 20, Drake London at wide receiver 21, Chris Olave at wide receiver 22, Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver 23, and Michael Pittman at wide receiver 24.
Joel, start us off with this part of the conversation.
As much as I like Odunze, I don't think I can rank him over DeVonta Smith without seeing it first. So, yeah, that would be tough for me. London, I would probably take straight up, just because I like that offense. Like Olave and Ayuk, I think are in the same tier. Pittman, I would take DeVonta 1,000 times out of 1,000 over Pittman. I don't think he's even close. So, I think those guys are in a pretty good. Other than Pittman, I think those guys are in a tier with DeVonta. I think they're all pretty close.
I'm looking at because this seemed really, really off. And so I wanted to take a deeper dive on the Dynasty Nerds website. I'm going to update them for our audience. But now when you look at it, it kind of seems a little wonky. When you look at the website, clearly it shows it. But DeVonta Smith actually is ranked at wide receiver 12 on Dynasty Nerds, 19th overall. That's where he's going. That was confusion.
Wow.
So DeVonta Smith at wide receiver 12, Rome Odunze at wide receiver 13, Drake London at wide receiver 14, Chris Olave at wide receiver 15, Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver 16, and Michael Pittman at wide receiver 17. So I will fix that, but just so you guys know, he is not, because I'm like, when you're getting into wide receiver 20 and you're talking about Brandon Ayuk, that just seems ridiculous. So I wanted to double check that one more time, and that makes a lot more sense. Wide receiver 12 for DeVonta Smith.
Yeah, that does make a lot more sense. I was kind of wondering who was actually in the tier above AJ Brown there, the other, dozen or so wide receivers. So that makes sense. But I'm going to agree pretty much with Joel on this. I would take Drake London, Olave, and Ayuk probably above DeVonta Smith. Probably the same tier with Odunze, and then Pittman would be the last out of this list. Do you see it differently, Hoov? And I know you're updating this, so apologies.
Nope, you're all good. I can multitask. I'm pretty good at it. So I would probably look at these guys right here and think, I recently traded AJ Brown in a dynasty league. I had a lot of wide receivers on that team, so I really needed a quarterback, and I ended up trading AJ Brown and I believe a 2025 first to move up to 101 to get Caleb Williams this offseason. Even though I think that AJ Brown probably could finish top 5, longevity wise, I always know DeVonta Smith is right on the cusp. And I know that Kellen Moore might not be a long-term answer, especially if Nick Sirianni is not the answer. Kellen Moore will be out the door if Nick Sirianni is as well. So I think that longevity, you should always keep DeVonta factored in with AJ Brown, but this might be another AJ Brown pop season. And then when I had the 106, I linked up Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. That's where I was going with this. So for the longevity, I think Rome Odunze is going to be what AJ Brown is for a long time. So I would definitely take Rome Odunze at wide receiver 12 over him if he's wide receiver 11. Drake London, there's a lot of people that'll talk you up on Drake London. I think I'd honestly rather have DeVonta at this point, because I feel like people are going to reach on Drake London. Then maybe they'll draft him at wide receiver 9. Maybe they'll draft him a little higher just because of the Kirk Cousins effect and Michael Penix being there. So I think someone else might be the Drake London sucker. It's not a sucker pick, but you understand the reference. It's like someone else will take that from you, and then I'd always
be
feel
that sucker.
Yeah, someone else can be that guy. I think I'd definitely take DeVonta Smith over Chris Olave as well. I'm not the biggest Chris Olave guy, and I'm not gonna definitely turn the talent of DeVonta Smith away, even though Chris Olave is a true one. Brandon Ayuk, he could be a 1,300-yard receiver wherever he goes. And Michael Pittman, we know he's a target hog, especially with Anthony Richardson being there and being the true one. So I think that there's a few guys, actually, other than Chris Olave and maybe Drake London, I would take. I'd probably rank him maybe more around wide receiver 15 in my personal rankings, DeVonta.
Okay.
Anything else?
I don't think so. So he's pretty young yet, still 26. Signed through the 2028 season, just got an extension. Now, I guess we all know the talent's there. He's defied the BMI nerds odds and just proven that he can stay healthy. He can do it on the field with the extremely tall NFL talent that's there. So there is no question in my mind about his ability. But as I kind of said earlier, with this offense, sharing the field with AJ Brown, you have Saquon. I mean, you've got Goddard, who, think what you will, he's a capable tight end. I think in the short term here, he'll do what we've seen. I guess, what is more of a long-term outlook for him? Or is he someone that you trust now? I'm going to trade for him, throw him in my lineup, and I'll just take the weeks that he has, or I think that he's going to be much more involved in this offense. Just kind of what's your kind of outlook for him here moving forward, just based on what we've seen previously with him? Hoov.
The best way I can answer this is like DeVonta Smith this year alone, I don't think he's going to have the targets to outproduce any true one. So you look at your 15, 14 wide receiver ones that you have around the league, he's probably not going to outproduce them. But start looking at the wide receiver 2s. Start looking at guys like Jalen Waddle. Start looking at guys like, I guess, whatever you want to think about Puka and Cooper Kupp, like whether you'd have Kupp as your wide receiver 2 or Puka as your wide receiver 2. Start looking at DeVonta Smith and where he ranks on these 2s, and I think it'll be very obvious as to where you feel about him, because he's got the talent more than some of these other wide receiver 2s. I think I definitely have him over like T. Higgins, even though that's more of a passing offense, and you kind of can see that Joe Burrow is probably gonna be flinging the ball a lot more. I think I'd honestly take DeVonta Smith's talent over T. Higgins' longevity reasons, just because of the injury history with T. Higgins. So there's a lot of reasons, like I said at the start, to believe in DeVonta Smith. I wish Josh was here, because Josh would be the firm this is going to be DeVonta Smith's season. But like you said, he's only 26. Most wide receivers, they don't peak until they're 27. Look at someone like DJ Moore that just finally popped and had a wide receiver top 10 season last year with a new offense. So there's plenty of reasons to be in on DeVonta Smith for the long haul, but be cautious about it this season with the targets that he could have.
So, Joel, kind of same thoughts or question to you, but do you think there's any world where AJ Brown maybe gets traded or they trade DeVonta Smith away from the team where that could increase his value or he could see more consistent targets on a regular basis?
Well, I guess I'll be the Josh surrogate here in that he has been an elite target earner, right? And 2 years ago, he had 136. I mean, last year that dipped to 112, but I think that's probably more of a function of the kind of dysfunction of the offense than any, kind of dip and play on his part. That offense was just terrible last year under Brian Johnson. They bring in Kellen Moore, who I think is probably a terrible real life coordinator, but he's really good for fantasy, right? His guys produce. And I don't think it matters if AJ Brown isn't there, right? It's a very skinny target tree there. So, and I love the BMI nerds reference. That was fantastic. It's him and AJ Brown, and they throw a ton. They're going to throw a ton with Kellen Moore. So yeah, it's an offense that can probably support 300 targets between the two of them. So Goddard's not going to take any targets away. What else is there? I mean, there's Saquon. He's going to get a little bit. Jalen Hurts doesn't like to throw to running backs. Never has. I mean, DeAndre Swift couldn't get targets there last year. So yeah, it's Brown and it's Smith, and that's really it. So yeah, I think it doesn't matter if AJ Brown's there. He can support an elite target share by himself in that offense. So I'm not worried about that whatsoever. The touchdowns, that's where AJ Brown can kind of dominate a little bit. He's never DeVonta Smith has never topped 7 touchdowns. So that could be an issue. But again, if we think the offense is better, then, it's maybe we have a situation with rising tide lifts all ships and stuff like that. I think hurts him a little bit there too, with the tush push and all that. I think there's some opportunities taken away, but yeah, he can support the target share necessary to be a wide receiver one. I have no qualms about that whatsoever.
The only thing that I will say about that is that I think Hurts is a little bit overrated in the sense as a passer. I think that he's a little overrated in that sense. People aren't going to like that one, but when you look at it, there's obviously
kick your ass.
There's room for improvement. He's not a bad passer. There's just room for improvement, and there's a lot of quarterbacks. There's always room for improvement. Look at someone like Lamar. I mean, he was a good passer, but there was room for improvement, and now he's one of the best passers in the league. And he's really squashed that whole thing on his resume or whatever you want to call it. But to answer your question, Dustin, about is there a chance that AJ Brown gets traded and that opens things up longevity for DeVonta Smith? I wouldn't bet on it, but you've also seen stuff like Stephon Diggs get traded. AJ Brown, I believe, is 28 now, 29.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
you
probably have another 2 years before that becomes a reality, if it would be. But you're paying two top receivers in this league. You're also paying Jalen Hurts. You just got Saquon Barkley there. There's plenty of defensive players that are up for contract or just got paid or will be up for contract in a year, 2 years from now. So, I wouldn't say it's this year that we should start asking that question. Maybe next offseason, that might be a question like, hey, is AJ Brown on the trade block? I think that's going to really come down to whether Nick Sirianni is there for the future, whether AJ Brown, how long he could be in Philly.
Just real quick, looking at his contract, if he's traded this year, it's a dead cap. If it hit at $42 million, if it's next year, it's $31 million. 2026, it's $20 million. He's not getting traded. It's not happening. Yeah,
it's not happening right now. I wouldn't bet on it until it becomes kind of a, hey, this team will take the hit. Or the Eagles really are willing to eat that cap for a great draft pick or something like that. It's not going to happen in the near future, but maybe in a year from now, we can start talking about it. Like, hey, maybe in a year from now. So 2 years, you could see that. But it's not like I'm going to look at 2 years from now and say, oh, AJ Brown could get traded and either go all in on DeVonta Smith or trade him. It's, his talent's there to buy him with AJ Brown and building.
All right, sounds good. We got Joe in the chat that says, I'm a big Smith fan, have been since his rookie year. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
He said,
You should be
you're
a big
right.
Smith
I
fan.
don't like that take. But there is always room for improvement. That's right. Absolutely. Even me as an analyst, like I remember last year I was saying I wasn't a big fan of CJ Stroud, and within 2 weeks, room for improvement. And now I feel great about my quarterback rankings this offseason. Stop fishing, bro.
Yes. All right. Well, let's actually talk some real values here and some trades. But before we do, since we look at trades off of our partner Dynasty Nerds, let's tell the folks out there about them. So do you want to take your Dynasty teams to a championship? Do you want to stack championships for years to come? Then you need to hear about Club Fantasy's newest partnership, Dynasty Nerds. Dynasty Nerds is one of the most trusted sources for both Dynasty advice and Dynasty tools. Their Nerd Score helps identify rookies with high ceilings and longevity to keep you in contention for years. If what you're looking for is film on incoming rookies, then look no further than their All-22 film room. They even have a Dynasty trade calculator that can help you find values throughout the season and better understand how to value players across an ever-changing landscape. And these are just a few of the tools that they offer. Just head to dynastynerds.com to see for yourself. Choose from one of their subscription plans, and at checkout, enter the code Club Fantasy, one word, to save 15% on your subscription. Once again, go to dynastynerds.com and use the promo code Club Fantasy to get 15% off at dynastynerds.com. All right, let's get into some of these trades here where the rubber meets the road, and see where DeVonta Smith's actually going.
All right. First one, we'll pull one up. We got a 12-team Superflex tight end premium, start 9. We got DeVonta Smith for Kansas City receiver Rashee Rice and a 2025 second.
Joel, start us off.
Man, that's close. I think I would probably take Rice in the second because I think he's probably close enough to DeVonta that I would just take the second. But yeah, that's a close one. But yeah, I think I would just take the value that I think he's within. I think Rice is within a tier of DeVonta that I'm okay with getting the pick and just tearing down. But yeah, that's a close one.
Yeah, same. I agree with you 100%, Joel. I would take the Rice on the pick side. It's close enough that the pick just moves it for me just enough.
Absolutely. I mean, in a year from now, after seeing what Rashee Rice can do for 2 years, I think that there's going to be some Rashee Rice straight up for DeVonta Smith trade. So this is one of those dynasty advice portions of the off season that you're like, hey, let's capitalize on the future. Rashee Rice is going to be just as talented as DeVonta Smith for the long haul. Let's jump on that before it's too late. And I get a 2025 second on top of it. DeVonta Smith, extremely talented. So is Rashee Rice, SMU, wide receiver U. And you know that next year there's a possibility of a suspension. But that's where that 2025 second comes in, and you can target someone. Hopefully there's just as many stacked wide receivers in next year's class in the second round as there was in this one, that you can target someone like A.D. Mitchell in this year's class or whatnot in 2025. So I'm all in on the second side of this. I would tear down just for dynasty reasons, but you could also find someone that really likes DeVonta Smith for this price.
I mean, just real quick, I would say, I mean, I can see why you're doing that and getting Rice in the second as like a processed kind of deal. But if you're the one trading Rice and the second for DeVonta, why are you doing that? Right? What's your motivation to do that? That there's just not that much difference between Rice and DeVonta. So, I mean, just this is what we want you to do is think through these trades. Just think through them from both sides. If I'm on that side, if I'm looking to upgrade from Rice, I would rather take a first and go get an elite, get a Puka, get an AJ Brown, get Marvin Harrison, whatever it would cost. if I want to upgrade from Rashee Rice, I want to go big game hunting. I don't want it to go, just up to DeVonta Smith. I want to go to the top.
Hot take. I think DeVonta Smith this season, before Rashee Rice started getting into legal trouble, and you're looking at Rashee Rice, DeVonta Smith, you weren't getting DeVonta Smith straight up for Roma Dunze or on the 106, but I definitely think you could have gotten DeVonta Smith for like a 107, 108. And for personal reasons, I can tell you that I tried getting like someone tried giving me a 110 for him. I contemplated it. I ended up flipping Rashee Rice later on for like the 201 and a 208. So his price dropped a little bit with the uncertainty of a suspension on the horizon. So maybe that's what someone's thinking. Maybe they're thinking that he's gonna pop this season for a little bit, but then once Worthy and Brown come back, that he could fizzle out of the offense. Me watching Rashee Rice play, I know that he plays the most Patrick Mahomes style football out of that whole wide receiver core, and he's probably going to be good. But if you were thinking, hey, I want to maybe get a Jalen Hurts, DeVonta Smith stack, and I wanted to trade Rashee Rice like before his suspension, I understand why someone would want to do it. I just personally wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
I think that's fair.
So let's talk about it now at this point. We talked about him going for like a 107, 108. 12 team, DeVonta Smith for a 2020. Let's just do a 2025 first. How about that? Just because we're already past that. 2025 first. Would you do it? You don't know where it's going. You don't know if it's going to be the last pick. You don't know if it's going to be the first pick. DeVonta Smith for a 2025 first. Are you willing to give up on him?
I'm not. No, not for a random one. I would have to know that it's going to be really high. Otherwise, yeah, no way, no chance. I'm trading at 25 first, or trading DeVonta for 25 first.
Are you a big Devy guy?
Not super huge, but I dabble. I've got a few Devy leagues.
All right. So with your dabbling, okay, where would you rank DeVonta Smith out of the 2025 class? Like, where do you think that the appropriate draft pick would be for him?
See, that's the problem, is there's no one, like, if you're looking at next year, you're probably looking at like Luther Burden out of Missouri as the top receiver in the class. So if you're looking for a receiver, he's a pretty similar player to DeVonta Smith. So what would be the point of moving that pick straight up? So there's no real, I would have to think that there's going to be an elite quarterback coming out of this class, or a Marvin Harrison type, elite receiver. And I don't think this class has either of those. So yeah, it would be a really tough sell for me to move DeVonta for basically any 25 verse, to be honest.
I like it. I think that's a great take. I was just advocating for people. I'm not in love with the 2025 class. Like Luther Burton's probably going to be the dog out of everyone. Not a Shedeur Sanders guy. I think he's great. I just don't think that he's going to be like a 101 and anything like that. Like he probably is going to be a first round quarterback just based off this draft class for next year for dynasty reasons. Like, but I'm not going to go like all in and say like, oh, I love Shedeur Sanders and I'm going to tank for Sanders. That's not a reality. So yeah, DeVonta Smith probably is better than a lot of guys. And even JJ McCarthy, with his injury that he just had out for the season, I would definitely trade a 2025 first for JJ McCarthy, because he would be the QB1 in next year's draft class without a doubt. So that would be like the 101, in my opinion, would be like a JJ McCarthy. So DeVonta Smith, yeah, I would, if someone offered you DeVonta Smith for 2025 first, I would do it. I definitely want that talent in building beforehand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to default to you guys on this one, because I don't know a lot about the 25 class. And like I said at the top of the show, DeVonta Smith, just trying to get his value has been one of my most challenging aspects of the offseason here.
I mean, Emeka is definitely going to creep his way up there. And, the youth of Emeka versus like the talent of DeVonta and him being 26, that's very close too. Very, very close too. So there's a few wide receivers in this next draft class to keep your eye on. But I definitely would like DeVonta Smith a little bit more, just for the certainty. Because if you have DeVonta Smith in building, you're not going to have a top 5 pick. Even if he's not this huge target hog, he's definitely going to still be worth a flex, still going to be worth a wide receiver 3, whatever. Wherever you put him. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1 at this time, but wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, flex spot, definitely worth that. Definitely worth that upgrade.
Plus, you get the year of production out of him, right? Instead of having to sit on a pick for next year. And I mean, the pick can have value, but you've got to work to use that. So, yeah, there's just no way I'm trading DeVonta for a 25 first. No way.
Well, also you have that contingent upside too. If God forbid something happens to AJ Brown, he instantly becomes the number 1 target on that offense. So, which he then could become a wide receiver 1 if that were to happen. Like I said, God forbid, we don't wish injuries on anyone.
Yeah. Yes, and so this next one, someone that's coming off of an injury, someone that probably is worth just as much as DeVonta Smith as a first rounder, but doesn't have that cachet, doesn't have that sex appeal that DeVonta Smith has. We're going to talk about Christian Kirk. We're going to talk about DeVonta Smith for Christian Kirk and Wan'Dale Robinson. What side do you like? Would you rather keep DeVonta Smith, or would you rather take a chance on Christian Kirk with Brian Thomason Jr. and Gabe Davis now in building?
I like Kirk, but yeah, this is pretty easily DeVonta. Wan'Dale's a nice guy to have on the back end of your roster, but again, he's no more than unless you're in a super deep league, he's no more than like a bye week starter for me. So yeah, I think that would be pretty easily DeVonta for me.
Yeah, same. Unless you're like, well, no, I shouldn't even say unless. No, I don't see a reason why you would want to take Kirk and Wan'Dale over DeVonta here. Even if you believe that Jaguars offense is going to take another step forward, Christian Kirk is going to be the guy, and Wan'Dale Robinson can actually stay healthy and be that number 2 in that receiving offense. I just don't think that outproduces DeVonta Smith.
I like Christian Kirk, and I think that he's very similar to like what Terry McLaurin could be this year, or what he was. So I'm the sucker that's going to take Christian Kirk and Wan'Dale Robinson, because I've also been hyping up Wan'Dale Robinson a shit ton this offseason. But this is very close. This is very, very close. I think Christian Kirk's just close enough with DeVonta talent-wise for me that I can do it. I think Christian Kirk's your true wide receiver 1 in that offense right now. But there's reasons to like this other side as well. Wan'Dale is probably going to be someone that he's going to be starting in your flex spots a lot more than people think. I'm not going to doubt the Giants this year. I think that Malik Neighbors' addition being in there just helps Wan'Dale Robinson create opportunities for himself, and that he's going to have to get double covered a lot because people are going to be really overcompensating for Malik Neighbors now being there. And Daniel Jones could even be a little sleeper. So Christian Kirk, people are going to sleep on him because he's still that wide receiver 3 in Arizona, and he doesn't deserve this contract and blah, 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 blah. But he's a dog. He's a dog. I recently traded Christian Kirk. Like I said, view him very similar to Terry, but I think I'd have Terry just a little higher this season. And I traded Christian Kirk Christian Kirk, Ricky Purcell, and Gabe Davis for Terry McLaurin in 2 seconds. And I think that that's very, very fair. I think we've talked about that recently on an episode. So Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin, kind of in the same tier for me, and they're just a little bit less than DeVonta Smith. But this year, I think I have Christian Kirk higher than DeVonta Smith.
It's interesting that you comped Kirk to McLaurin because they're both in the older than you think club. They're both 28. So I think they're both, I don't think people realize that those guys are both that old. So
I think people know that Terry's that old. I don't think people know that Kirk's that old.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you think about it, 27, Kirk had a great year last year, got injured, but he was having an awesome year, was a league winner for most of the year, and most wide receivers peak at 27. So there's a reason to like DeVonta Smith. There's a reason to like this other side. I think I'm going to take my chances on Christian Kirk finally earning that first round capital in a trade. And so maybe at the end of this year, I could trade Christian Kirk for someone that doesn't know very much about the 2026 draft class, and then I would do that in a heartbeat. And then I got Wan'Dale Robinson. And Wan'Dale Robinson is going to help win my leagues this year and hopefully for the next 2 years to come.
Love that confidence.
All right. Now let's talk about someone I don't have a lot of confidence in, but we should definitely talk about them. DeVonta Smith for Javonte Williams and his 2025 first.
Yeah, I don't trust Javonte enough. I like him, but I don't trust him enough to bridge the gap. And this is obviously closer than the 25 first straight up, but I think I would still take the known production out of DeVonta.
Yeah, same. It's not that I don't trust Javonte Williams. I trust him plenty. I just don't trust Sean Payton in that offense. So that really is the deciding factor for me as well.
I like to when I go into these, I like to see like, okay, if I did do this trade, what could I trade the guy that I'm not like in love with for? And I don't know what I can get on Javonte Williams. I don't think that anyone's gonna give him gonna give me what I think that he's worth. Is he probably worth, if he is a bell cow running back at this point, just coming off of an injury, is he worth 2 seconds? Probably to someone, but I don't think anyone's going to give you that just with the uncertainty with what they're doing. There's a lot of reasons like Javonte Williams, he could easily get replaced next year. There's a lot of running backs coming in the 2025 class. That's one thing I will say about it is that there's going to be some guys that this is going to be that class that you need to worry about coming in and being that handicap that takes away opportunities. Like I'm not worried at all about Blake Corum, and I'm not worried at all about some of these guys coming in and taking away opportunities. Kind of the same way I feel about like Tyjae Spears, like I feel about Javonte Williams. Like he could be awesome this year, but is it going to be awesome enough for the long haul that the Broncos or the Titans aren't going to invest in another running back in the 2025 class that kills his value? Yeah, I think that's very, very possible. So I think I'm with Joel. I don't think that this would move it enough for me, even though it probably is very fair.
The problem with Javonte is he's just like he's one injury away from his value going to zero, just completely tanking. So,
I mean, it's not like It's not like Nick Chubb where we've seen years and years of high production. Right. Javonte peaked and got injured. That happens. That happens to a lot of great players. I mean, we were just talking about Jermichael Finley this last weekend, down at the Expo. So a lot of talent, a lot of players that just have a lot of talent in the world, and unfortunately, they just can't stay healthy. But now that we're talking about this one, I think that it gives me a good enough value. So let's do Javonte Williams for Jameson Williams in the 2020 and a 202 this year.
I don't care about Jameson Williams, so this is DeVonta by a mile.
Yeah, I would take DeVonta too. I'm not a believer in Williams anymore. I was when he first came out, and I would hope that, coming off that injury, I knew it would be slow to get going, but since he's come back, we've seen some flashes here and there, and I know Dan Campbell's been talking him up here all the training camp. But I don't believe in him either. So I'd take DeVonta.
He has all the talent in the world. Do you think that he's going to stay healthy? And I want our viewers out there to ask themselves this. Like, do you really think this is going to be the Jameson Williams year? I mean, I was holding on very, very long for Jameson Williams, and this has to be the year. Very much like Javonte Williams. It has to be the year for Jameson Williams. Otherwise, his value goes to shit. So even though this is probably really fair, and you could probably get like Jameson Williams, maybe pair him with Keon Coleman. So you think like Jameson Williams and Keon Coleman, is that a very fair trade for DeVonta Smith? Probably, but you're hearing things already about Keon Coleman not being able to separate, and you're like, I know DeVonta Smith can separate in the NFL level, so I think I'd actually still like to have DeVonta Smith, even though it's probably very fair, and most people would probably tell you that the other side is more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't think if I went out there offering Jameson Williams and a 202, I think in 95% of my leagues, I don't think I could get that deal done. Really? I don't think the market is that high on Jameson Williams.
Well, what do you think that he's probably worth? Like, I think personally, I think he's probably worth like a 205. Like, would you rather have Jameson Williams or like Jalen Polk?
Yeah, I think that's a mid-second is probably close. That's probably about right. But yeah, I mean, depending on my roster, if I had like 7 other receivers I could start ahead of him, I would take the flexibility of the pick. If I really needed a receiver, like I think at some point Jameson Williams is going to have a spike year, but how many is he going to have? Like, is he ever a guy you're going to be comfortable starting? Like, he's going to be so boom bust that, yeah, in a best ball, he's probably really good, but in a managed league, I'm going to struggle starting him because I'm going to feel like, oh, this could be a Jahmyr Gibbs game or a Sam LaPorta game or an Amon-Ra St. Brown game. And James Williams is going to get like 2 targets for 32 yards or 2 catches for 32 yards and be completely useless.
Yeah, and unlike DeVonta, say Amon-Ra goes down for some reason, I'm not confident that he would take over as the number 1 receiving option. It would probably go to LaPorta first and then to Gibbs, and then he would still probably be the 3rd option on that offense.
Yeah, that offense is never going to run through Jameson Williams ever.
Heck yeah. We got a comment right here. I just wanted to pop this in here. Our friend Michael on Twitter. Hey, I was wondering if you guys would help me draft during my startup on Sunday at 8 p.m. I'm cool with being on camera. If you guys want to make a video out of it, it would be great to have some expert help during the draft. And I love the content you guys make. Appreciate that. And I'm trying to have you draft the team. I just think it would be cool to take rookie dynasty player and kind of run through the process of a love to start up with them. Absolutely, Michael. Make sure you guys you follow us all on Twitter, and you're free to shoot us a message anytime. 8 o'clock on Sunday, I probably am available. So shoot me a DM, and let's do it. So back to the basics, though. Back to the basics. So there's enough talent out of both players, but it comes down to injury between Jameson Williams and DeVonta Smith. I think that we can finish it right there. And then let's go into, I think we have 2 more trades. So if you have any other DeVonta Smith trades, if you guys want to throw something out there, have us break it down, this is the best time to do that before we finish it up. So got 12 teams, Superflex, full point, tight end premium, start 10. DeVonta Smith straight up for TJ Hockenson.
I would probably take Hockenson over Smith here, just because it's tight end premium. When he's healthy, we saw him being he was one of the top tight ends in the league. There's no doubt about it. So give me Hockenson here.
Yeah, and the full point, I struggle with Hockenson just because I don't think he's going to be worth much this year. But in the full point, I think you just got to take that value because he's one of the more valuable players in a full point tight end premium league. So yeah, I would have to lean Hockenson, but I wouldn't feel good about it.
I think I'm with you. It doesn't feel great, but you have to take Hockenson, even though Hockenson, in my opinion, might be a hot take, might not be. I would, if I was Kevin O'Connell, I would pull TJ Hockenson this whole year. I would let him just sit out the whole year and just rest. There was reason to think that they would have rushed him back. I think the Vikings would have been the 3rd best team in that division. I think that them being such an underrated team, that they would have crept themselves up, and you would have seen the high expectations that Chicago is putting on Caleb Williams with a Shane Waldron offense and a Matt Eberflus-led team. I think that there was going to be some quirks that they were going to have to work out at the start of the season, and Kevin O'Connell knows how to get rid of those quirks. So I think that the Bears are going to be looking up at the rest of this division by week 10, and they were going to have to point the finger at someone, and it was going to be Shane Waldron. And so I think the fact that the Vikings are probably going to be a scratch this year, with JJ McCarthy being out, and I'm not probably rushing TJ Hockenson back, Jordan Addison being injured now, it might be a scratch this year. But longevity wise, before TJ Hockenson got hurt, this man was on pace to being the true tight end 1 for the long haul. I mean, Sam LaPorta finished finished as a rookie, but TJ Hawkinson was crushing last year, and it was hard to find a better value than TJ Hawkinson, even if Sam LaPorta was amazing. He wasn't TJ Hawkinson. And TJ Hawkinson being, 27 still? 28? Not a rookie by any means, but these tight ends, you look at someone like Mercedes Lewis that can play forever. I'm not going to doubt TJ Hawkinson. I'm not going to look at Travis Kelce. He's a lot older than TJ Hawkinson as well. Still putting up tight end 1 numbers for a long time. So TJ Hawkinson is a true 1 in this position, and DeVonta Smith, as great as he is, a lot of talent, can't put him over TJ Hawkinson at all, especially in a tight end premium.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about Hawkinson maybe not playing this year, I mean, that's a realistic possibility. I mean, if you look at their schedule, it's at New York, San Fran at home, Houston at home, at Green Bay, New York, the Jets in London, then they get their bye, then Detroit, and then at the Rams. They could legitimately be 0-7. So by the time that Hawkinson's ready to come back. I mean, yeah, I mean, things may have to go wrong, but I mean, if Darnold struggles to pick up the offense right away,
which he will,
this could, yeah, I mean, this could be, if Addison's not ready for the first couple of weeks, and we've seen the ankle injury, that could be a really tough. I mean, they may go through the first couple of months of the year and not have a win. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a legitimate possibility that they just give him a redshirt year and just get him ready to go for 25.
Yeah, it seems like we're right in line. We're thinking.
I mean, which of those games would you make them a favorite in? I can't see any of them that I would think they're favored in.
No,
that's kind of what the Vikings are, though. Is like, even with Kirk Cousins, like, they were obviously better with Kirk Cousins, but they're just like that sneaky team. Like, I always like I viewed them like the Bengals, but the Bengals would just get the win at the end. Like, they're a very close team. Like, they're not like smoking anyone. They're very competitive, and at the end, either they win or they lose. And the Bengals, like, they're that team that they have that elite quarterback that can put them over at the end, like a Matthew Stafford or, whatever, is that he could do that. Like, the Vikings aren't a great team. And even with Josh Dobbs last year, like, Josh Dobbs is a good player that can, like, create a spark, but a lot of it is Kevin O'Connell just trying to do what he can. Like Shane Steichen, great coach, just great at what he does, and they're going to be very competitive, but I don't think I can favor them in many games this year.
Yeah, I like O'Connell quite a bit, and that hurts me as a Packer fan that he's in the division. And I don't expect him to go 0-8, but that's a tough stretch, man. That's a really tough stretch. That's
very, very tough stretch. Like, they could win like 3 games out of that. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if they're like 3-5. Wouldn't be surprised at all. It's Kevin O'Connell, and they have so much talent there. They could have been the 3rd best team in that division if JJ wouldn't have gotten hurt. So it's a very unfortunate situation, but I'm not going to count this team out by any means. I'm not either.
That's a brutal stretch, and there's a very good chance that they're 2-6, 1-7 by the beginning of November when Hawkinson's ready to come back.
So, all right, well, we'll talk about another Viking since we're on the cuff about it. DeVonta Smith for Jordan Addison and a 2025 second, very similar to the Rashee Rice trade earlier.
This one, I think I got to take DeVonta just because there's so much uncertainty with Addison, with this potential suspension, with he's already hurt. He's a second, I just think Rice is in a better offense with Mahomes. So yeah, here in that one, I would take the DeVonta side. I know what I'm getting there.
I am with you. And I think Jordan Addison was great. He was a great rookie to take a stab on where he was going last year with a 107. I was definitely getting Jordan Addison over Quentin Johnston last year at that spot. But this is one of those things that Jordan Addison, I don't think he's going to win you any leagues by any means for the long haul. I don't think DeVonta Smith is either, but I definitely like my chances a lot more with DeVonta Smith. I traded Jordan Addison and a 109 to move up to a 104. And I drafted Malik Neighbors, and I feel great about that for the long haul. It's like I know that Malik Neighbors is going to be a league winner, and I know he's going to be a target hog. He's going to be the true one in that offense. Jordan Addison, as great as he could be, like there's just those headaches that you never want to see on your team between like just off the field stuff and just now injuries. A lot of reasons to just fade Jordan Addison at this point. And when there's not many reasons other than Kellen Moore to fade DeVonta Smith. So I think I definitely have to go to DeVonta Smith.
Yeah, we're all in agreement here. I would take DeVonta Smith as well. With Jordan Addison, I had real high hopes coming out of last year for him. Taking him where I could in rookie drafts and even in redraft, knowing that he was a rookie, like that he would be involved in this offense with JJ across from him. But what's to stay with this year with some of his off-field stuff that they've had going on, and now he's got this injury? What if this becomes one of those nagging injuries and he just isn't on the field as much as we think? And then coupled with this off-field stuff that's going on, maybe he's in the coach's doghouse, doesn't see as much playing time because of it. If they're going to be losing anyway, without JJ there, without Hawkinson, like we just talked about, they're really not tanking, but maybe they end up, he's not quite as involved because of these reasons. And, for that, I just don't want to have to deal with that headache, and just give me the guy I know that's going to be starting week in and week out.
Absolutely. That just, while you were saying that, this popped into my head because of Michael's comment earlier. Are you guys participating in Pros with Joes at all?
No.
Mm-mm.
You not? Well, your boy Hoov is this year. So, Michael, if you did want to co-manage a team this year, there is a great opportunity. I made sure I dropped the link below, and you guys can go ahead and click that link right down below, and it'll take you to a link for Alzheimer's Association. That's the charity I will be playing for this year in Pros with Joes. So if you wanted to co-manage a team with your boy Hoov, we could take down all the competition, and let's do that together. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. As well as if you got $10, $5 goes towards a LaPorta Amon-Ra jersey for Women of Fantasy, our sister corporation here at Club Fantasy. So $5 enters you in for a Sam LaPorta Amon-Ra jersey, and another $5 enters you 5 times into Pros with Joes with your boy Hoov. So $10 goes a long way. Let's do something great. So sorry, I just had to get that out.
No, that's awesome.
Comment was just
awesome.
speaking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, congrats to you, man. That's an awesome honor for you.
Hey, man, I as a former caregiver, as someone that I started out as a life enrichment assistant, and I used to be the bingo guy with all the residents and was the fun guy for a long time. And as well as my grandpa having Alzheimer's and helping the family during that time and doing that, I've seen it, and I really would love to do something to help and give back. Helping those families as a caregiver, seeing how hard that disease can be. So if you guys want to do something great, make sure you guys go ahead and donate for your boy Hoov.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't have said it better.
All right. But if that is all the trades that we have today, we are finishing up as of now. So go ahead and drop a comment if you have anything else. Other than that, we have to go ahead and remind you one more time about our amazing partners over at Dynasty Nerds. Do you want to take your Dynasty teams to a championship? Do you want to stack championships for years to come? Then you need to hear all about Club Fantasy's newest partnership, Dynasty Nerds. Dynasty Nerds is one of the most trusted sources for both Dynasty advice and Dynasty tools. Their Nerd Score helps identify rookies with high ceilings and longevity to keep you in contention for years. If what you're looking for is film on incoming rookies, then look no further than their All-22 film room. They even have a Dynasty trade calculator that can help you find values throughout the season and better understand how to value players across an ever-changing landscape. And these are just a few of the tools that they offer. Just head to dynastynerds.com to see for yourself. Choose from one of their subscription plans at checkout. Enter code CLUBFANTASY to save 15% off of your subscription. Once again, go to dynastynerds.com and use promo code CLUBFANTASY to get 15% off.
All right. Thank you for that, Hoov. And before we sign off for the evening, thank you everyone for watching. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We appreciate you. Make sure you're dropping any trade questions you have into the chat. We will answer them live on the air here. If you have other questions that come up during the week, make sure you hit up any of us here. We will answer your questions. You can hit my co-hosts, Joel at the Joel Wirth, Hoov at the HoovTube. You can find me at FF Dusty Dog. And make sure you're following and subscribing to Club Fantasy FFL at Club Fantasy FFL and Women of Fantasy Football at Women of _FF. And make sure you're following all the great shows under the Club Fantasy banner. On Monday, we got Mocking with the Stars. On Tuesday, the Masterclass. On Wednesday, the Women of Fantasy Football. On Wednesdays also. It's the flagship, no pun intended. On Thursday, you've got us with TradeBlocked and also following us, the Mock Girl Summer. On Friday, Mock It Like It's Hot. And on Sunday, it's the Dynasty After Party. So be sure you're checking out all those shows. Make sure you're subscribing to us on YouTube here, Club Fantasy. You'll get a notification every time one of our great shows goes live. You can join in, hop in the chat. It's a lot of fun doing tons of stuff this time of year, getting you ready to win your championships. So make sure you're going out and doing that. And gentlemen, any parting thoughts here before we head out for the evening?
Lindsay Rhodes tonight on Mock Girl Summer, so stick around. That should be a great show with Wendy, Julie, and Lindsay Rhodes. Big time stuff. So
big time stuff. Lindsay's
the
best.
Awesome human being.
Heck yeah. So that's it. That's all I got. Just make sure you guys go ahead, check out Pros with Joe's, donate to Alzheimer's Association. Let's help end L's.
All right. And I think we'll leave it there, and we will see you next week, folks. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everybody.